this Friday, August 1st, 2025 transmission. I am your battle-scarred from the InfoWar faithful chronicler, Alex Jones. All right, let's launch into all of the other insane news, starting with Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and all the other individuals in the administration really on a daily basis releasing massive new smoking gun proof of the Obama, Hillary, CIA, Justice Department, deep state rolling coup starting in 2016 to overturn elections, to target Trump supporters, to target Trump, to illegally spy on him. And I see a lot of people, including Owen Schroyer, saying, I was watching him yesterday, and I get what he's saying. I'm not saying he's totally wrong, saying this is nothing new. We knew this 8 years ago. Yeah, we knew they were lying. We knew the Steele dossier wasn't real. We knew Trump wasn't getting pissed on in Moscow and St. Petersburg by Russian prostitutes. We knew we weren't Russian agents. We knew Obama was spying illegally. We knew he put stay-behind networks in with the Countering Disinformation, Foreign Disinformation Propaganda Act. Yeah, we knew all that. But we didn't have the absolute total smoking gun, emails, handwritten notes, and all the rest of it. And we weren't into the future with the cover up the Biden laptop, all the CIA, FBI directed censorship, election meddling, protecting the communist Chinese with the mail-in ballots that they shipped in, and covering up all the whistleblowers and raiding Mar-a-Lago to get documents that they knew exposed Brennan, Clapper, and Comey. But too bad they weren't there. That's all new. And I've been told, as I told you months ago, that they were going to extend this treason investigation they now officially call the treasonous conspiracy investigation and the strike force into 2024. And they've got all these new crimes. And now Tulsi Gabbard came out and said, yes, we now know and we have documents that they were doing stuff in 2020 and up into 2024. And they're getting ready to release it. She told Benny Johnson. Kind of a big deal. Because this gets past the statute of limitations stuff with the cut and dry perjury of Comey, Brennan, and Clapper before Congress that they weren't involved in spying and there was nothing going on and they weren't involved in Crossfire Hurricane. And there's been lots of them trying to act like their handwritten notes. Oh, Hillary was running it all. We warned her to stop. No, they created it, gave it to Hillary. And the FBI gave money to the Steele dossier. So they're all guilty. And we got Megyn Kelly saying Hillary needs to be arrested. And so there's a cacophony, a crescendo of buzz around this. And if they don't start indicting these people soon, I'm glad they're not just having some special prosecutor, Durham whitewash, and one low-level FBI agent for falsifying an email goes to jail. No, they have to be indicted. It has to all come out in a court. It's already out. And we got to dismantle these people, or their operatives are still throughout the government, as Gabbard also told Glenn Beck and Benny Johnson, that there is a mutiny going on, that they are literally having people in her office and in Kennedy's office and others where they say, okay, we're not authorizing the mRNA shot. That's my public statement, and we're not doing it. And then they just robo-pin, sign his name to it while he's on vacation. Comes back, fires him, and now they're reversing it. But, I mean, these are very arrogant criminals because they never get in trouble. Fauci, Mark Milley, calling up the communist Chinese in 2021 in the last weeks of Trump and saying, don't worry, I've got the nuclear codes, he doesn't, implying Trump was going to nuke them. That's treason. And Trump was going to have this commission in the Pentagon on the Afghan withdrawal and on Milley to see if they would be court-martialed. Where's that? Where is going to Fort Knox to look at the gold and to audit the gold? If you're a waitress that didn't pay $5,000 of Vimeo tips you got, the IRS comes after you. But they haven't audited the Treasury for that since the 70s. So now he did say he was going to go to the big palace $3.1 billion renovation of the Federal Reserve headquarters in D.C. He did do that, and that was a big hit. More of that. So when you start putting pressure on Trump, where's the investigation of the gold? I want to know where the gold is. I want the gold. And it's not just at Fort Knox. They got a big vault depository in New York. They got other ones as well. So that's not hard, Trump, to take the Treasury head, the cent, and to go there. Or I'm sure they came to him and said, sir, this was done and been moved here or sold to those. It's gone. It'll hurt the economy if you tell them it's gone. We know you're getting ready to tie gold to Bitcoin and launch Bitcoin monetization and the Bitcoin reserve, which he's announced today they're getting ready to do, which we've been saying was coming from our sources. And so that's going to be really good for the economy. So I'm not defending cover-ups. I know the arguments, and I know what they come to him with. And I'll bet you all the tea in India that gold's been sold or shipped off many years ago, decades ago, and that they came to Trump and said, let's just not do that. So that's my best approximation. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what's happening. I think that's what you know, right? Yeah, we know the gold's not there. I mean, they might have a little bit there. And we know it's not in New York. Though in the last, as soon as even before he was inaugurated, and then once he was inaugurated, record numbers of gold shipments back into New York and other areas and disappearing into those reserves. So who knows what's happening? But very, 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 very mysterious. So declassified Durham appendix shows Hillary Clinton personally ordered Trump Russia hoax, knew he was innocent, used FBI to put more oil on the fire, is the quote of what she wanted. I mean, you talk about a demon creature. That is Hillary Clinton. Megyn Kelly on newly declassified Durham appendix. Hillary Clinton should be behind bars. Yep, sure should be. Jonathan Turley warns former CIA Chief John Brennan that he's not out of the woods. Powerful statements by Tulsi Gabbard on Glenn Beck. She tells Beck she's surrounded by anti-Trump deep state hires. As we're finding these documents, going through them, declassifying, releasing them, we are learning more about who was actually directly involved and who may have been in the room. Operation Mockingbird 2.0. Tulsi Gabbard confirms intel agencies still using corrupt media to undermine Trump and push propaganda. Yeah, fire their asses. They're trying. DNI Tulsi Gabbard confirms explosive 2020 election fraud revelations coming. Feds knew about voting machine vulnerabilities and stayed silent, as well as the Communist Chinese shipping in the ballots. The case is not closed. It's not dismissed. It's not been complied with. Georgia State Election Board votes to seek DOJ assistance to obtain voting records from Fulton County in 2020 election. Boy, they don't want that. It's going to vindicate Rudolph Giuliani and others. More to come. Kash Patel calls out Clinton after declassified Durham annex reveals Hillary personally approved Trump Russia hoax. Well, let's see it. Could someone have a more demonic face than Hillary? I mean, the evil just shines through. You know, Jack Nicholson can look scary when he wants to. He can look like a demon. I can too. But Hillary, just it's all the time. It's just constant because she is a demon. Unbelievable that slime is still walking free. Now let's go to a few of these clips. Here is the Director of Office of National Intelligence with Glenn Beck. Here it is.
How many people are you surrounded by that are still part of that old system?
It's a good question. As we're finding these documents, going through them, declassifying and releasing them, we are learning more about who is actually directly involved and implicated in this. We're learning more about who may have been in the room and who was loudly protesting against it, recognizing how wrong it was. We have whistleblowers coming forward with their own documentation of their protests and their unwillingness to go along with this. So yes, there are people who are still working within the intelligence community who had a hand in this. As we are identifying them, it will give us the opportunity to make sure that they and others like them who, again, are so willing to weaponize intelligence to subvert the will of the American people can no longer work in the intelligence community.
Well, that's a nice start. But they're working for corporate interests. You always think, oh, they're a Russian agent, they're a Chinese agent, and that stuff goes on. But no, corporations historically, even for hundreds of years, have more important, more powerful, more sneaky intelligence and operatives than governments. But we have this blindness to it. And when you hear the term Mockingbird, that was one of the CIA operations that got declassified in the 70s during the Church Committee hearings of the Senate. And they have new names for it, the Countering Foreign Disinformation Propaganda Act. And they turn loose the CIA, the FBI, other agencies, corporate groups, PR firms, law firms, all of them against you with lawfare, with attacks, with criminal indictments. They've got their operatives everywhere. And it's been a reign of terror. Here she is talking about more about to come out with the operatives. This is with Benny Johnson, but speaking of the same thing she was saying on Beck, just elaborating, that their operatives are still in the government, working with the corporate media to put out disinformation and attack Trump, his agenda, and you know who else. Oh, yeah, yours truly. Here it is.
The media being used as a propaganda mechanism. We saw it flatly. I mean, I think it's the smoking gun, quite frankly, of the Obamagate narrative and the Russiagate narrative, that it was so baked in that the New York Times and Washington Post went and ran with it. Some would say that that's part of Operation Mockingbird. Some would say that that's part of what we learned in the Church Committee, that the intel agencies were using media outlets as their mouthpieces, and that those mouthpieces would parrot the official narrative. And I wanted to ask you, is this operation still going on? Are you aware of the intel agencies working directly with media outlets in order to push prescribed narratives that may or may not be true?
It's something that we've already had to deal with, Benny, within this administration, where there are people within the intelligence community who believe that their will is more important than the will of the American people, and will weaponize intelligence by leaking it to their friends within the mainstream media with the intent of undermining President Trump's agenda. It is not one that he hasn't already talked about in every rally and town hall that he did throughout the campaign. I don't even know how many there were, but President Trump is enacting the very thing he promised the American people he would do in this election. So people in the intelligence community, they may agree, they may disagree. That's not the point here. As intelligence professionals, as people who work in the national security space, in the intelligence community, they are required to fulfill their mandate to their oath to the Constitution of the United States and to the President of the United States, who was duly elected by the American people. Those who leak intelligence to their friends in the mainstream media with the intent of undermining the president who was elected by the American people, none of these intelligence professionals were. They are subverting the will of the people and therefore undermining the Constitution.
It's wild that you're still having to deal with that. Call it what you will, but Operation Mockingbird, just incredible that they were just out with it, that they were using the media as government organs to push propaganda, and it's still happening today.
This is why what we're doing is so important, Benny,
Yes.
and this is why President Trump's mandate in this is really critical, is by exposing the truth, by exposing the bad actors within the intelligence community and in the political space. who are weaponizing intelligence to advance their own political interests is so important. To be able to turn the light on in places that have been dark for far too long, expose the truth, and drive accountability. That's the only way that we can actually shift this and begin the work to try to restore trust in the intelligence community.
Okay, so let me just give you a few of the names here. They haven't called it Mockingbird since the 70s. And they had the disinformation board they set up. They got rid of the name and the director of it right before they stole the 2020 election, right under Trump's nose, because he wasn't running the agencies then. He's trying to now. They set up a DHS election integrity cyber hacking command, and then it ran the censorship and control. And Mike Benz did a good job breaking that down. Again, they have the Countering Foreign Disinformation Propaganda Act. They have the State Department group coordinating that, and a bunch of other groups. And then just USAID and EPA shoveling tens of billions into NGOs to run around and engage in all their propaganda. And it just goes on and on. And they've had congressional hearings about all this now. And Johnson's a smart guy. I love Benny Johnson. He's just, he's like, oh, so what do they call it now? And Gabbard's like, well, it's people in the intel agencies. Well, it's a little worse than that. We have whole divisions still operating with these goals. And we know the names, and we know who they are, and we know who their victims have been. Looking at one right here. We have the documents. Imagine the documents we don't have. Yeah, it's all about the repeal of the Smith-Month Act by Obama and by the Republicans. And it legalized the CIA lying to you. Now, they were already doing it, but remember that one little purchase item from the Defense Department for COVID to Reuters, $9 million, just one line item for widespread social deception operations against the American people. And then when Congress asked them about it finally in hearings a few months ago, Doge uncovered that 6 months ago, they went, oh, yes, we were countering widespread deception, but they were the ones engaged in the widespread deception. Now, here's Tulsi talking about documents coming on the integrity of the systems. And now we do know Homeland Security in 2020 was breaking in to databases in the Carolinas, in Georgia, and other areas. And then they were going to blame the Russians, but they got caught. And you go, well, wait, Trump was president then. Yeah. And he might have gotten control, dead reckoning, 10% of the federal government, maybe. I mean, again, people are like, he's the president, he's got total control. No, that's not how things work. And so this is a huge task, but Trump's doing a 1,000% better job than he did the first term. And he's admitted that. He didn't understand all this. All right, let's go ahead and go to another Tulsi Gabbard clip. Here it is.
You made a comment at a cabinet secretary meeting that has stuck with our audience, and they'd really love an update on it. And it's about the 2020 election. And you were talking about the security of that election, and you were telling President Trump that there has been evidence that has been uncovered of potential breaches. I'm not exactly certain, but I'd love a follow-up on this. Here's the moment right here, and perhaps do you have any updates on the 2020 election or anything that you've found, Director?
The point that I was making there in the cabinet meeting was early discovery that I had seen from a whistleblower who came forward, who was working under CISA at that time, which is responsible for critical infrastructure and trying to protect against cyber vulnerabilities, critical infrastructure, including, of course, the integrity of our election systems. And what was interesting was seeing how this whistleblower brought forward information that CISA at that time, the federal government, was aware of vulnerabilities in our election machines, but they chose not to disclose that information to the American people or to the administration at that time. This is an area, of course, of critical importance, once again, for the American people to have faith in the integrity of our elections and that it is their voice that is heard through these elections. We're continuing to investigate this, and when we have information that we're ready to release, you'll hear about it.
Okay, so we're going to be hearing more on the 2020 election and some critical vulnerabilities.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And then when are we going to get indictments? When are we going to get those? I have seen Trump cutting, it's got to be $100 billion plus now, from blue state funding and blue city funding when they are not moving to put in voter ID, when they're not moving to stop transgender brainwashing and the DEI. I mean, there's a lot good there happening. Cut the money off, but I want to see indictments, and I want to see them 6 months ago. And that's all I hear on the street, and all I hear from family, and all I hear from the crew, and all I hear everywhere. People get pissed off at me sometimes. You know what? You like Trump, so do I. Why had he done anything? Why had he? I'm like, I hear you. All right. I just got hit with massive news. Good God. Trump, a week ago, said Russia has 50 days to do a peace deal or he's going to do a bunch of really serious escalation. And they gave us some ideas of what that was. And it ran from horrible to Armageddon. And then a few days ago, he goes, no, you got 12 to 10 days. And now here we are. I guess the deadline's out like 8 days, 9 days, depending on 10 to 12 days. Trump orders nuclear submarines move near Russia. You know what that means? So, boy, that's interesting. I was going to get into AI Antichrist Armageddon. That's already the headline for the show today, but now we're going to come back and cover this. You can feel the danger, can't you? Pray for peace, ladies and gentlemen. We're far from out of the woods.
Join our regularly scheduled program after these messages.
I'll say this. See, this is the beauty when we deal with actual facts. I'll go straight to the United States government policy. You have what's called the National Security Study Memorandum 200, also known as NSSM 200, which was authorized, written under Dr. Henry Kissinger, who was the 32nd Secretary of State under President Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. Pardon me, documentation. Now, this is all we go straight to what the U.S. government has stated. He stated, quote, depopulation should be the highest priority of U.S. foreign policy towards the third world, end quote. They literally stated in this documentation that we need to get rid of 2 to 3 billion people on planet Earth. Outside of that, you have something called Global 2000, which was also authorized under Jimmy Carter, outlining how food can be used as a weapon. Outside of that, you had someone by the name of Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was a former advisor to President Jimmy Carter, who stated, quote, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people than to physically kill 1 million people. He said, but now it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control, end quote.
It was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control.
So what you're dealing with is the food, the air, the water, reproductive services, Planned Parenthood, and all these different arenas are being used to go towards an effort of getting rid of human beings, black, white, and all in between, by the billions.
I ask, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate, that are die-hard capitalists? And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
But at this point, They are looking at the reality that people are waking up too fast. They didn't expect us to wake up too fast, hence social media being a problem, a gift and a curse.
I've studied the pieces. We've got the owner's manual. We've got the blueprint, and let me tell you, it ain't pretty. UN climate change official says we should, quote, make every effort to depopulate the planet, close quote. There is pressure in the system to go towards that. We should do everything possible to carry that out. I mean, these people are totalitarians. It's eugenics. It's depopulation program. That's why this is the biggest subject that we could possibly cover. It's the reality. And so you think about that, and you think about what's going on long and hard. You better look into it, folks. You better find out it's real, okay? You think you're freaked out by this? I know why a lot of you are in denial.
So now that we're waking up so quickly, they didn't expect the masses of humanity to rise up, wake up, become aware of what this government's agenda is. And because of that, now they're trying to figure out exactly how to get rid of people. They said these white folks is waking up, they're coming against us. Big government. Black folks is waking up, they're coming against us. So now at this point, they're like, well, just get rid of them all.